The World Bank, a financial leviathan with a heart of gold, maybe? Welcome to our deep dive into the World Bank, an institution that plays a crucial role in global development. Now, I know what you're thinking. The World Bank sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry on a spreadsheet, and you're not entirely wrong. It's a massive, complex organization with a mandate that could make your eyes glaze over faster than you can say structural adjustment program. But stick with me, because beneath the layers of bureaucracy and economic jargon lies an institution that wields immense power over the lives of millions around the world. Today we'll explore its objectives, features, advantages and disadvantages, because let's be honest, nothing in this world, especially when it comes to global finance, is ever as straightforward as it seems. We'll unpack the good, the bad and the downright confusing, all while trying to answer one fundamental question. Can an institution like the World Bank, with its checkered past and often contradictory policies, truly be a force for positive change in the world? Buckle up, folks, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Poverty reduction, a Sisyphean task. The World Bank's first goal is to eliminate poverty. A noble goal, but let's be real, it's like trying to club the sun into submission. The bank provides financial and technical assistance to developing nations. Think of it like a wealthy relative with a check and opinions. Sometimes that help is desperately needed. We're talking about countries grappling with debt and poverty. A cash injection and expert advice can make a difference. But this assistance often comes with strings attached, conditions that can benefit the lender more than the borrower. So, is the World Bank making a dent in global poverty? The answer is complicated. Some projects have had a positive impact, but there have also been spectacular failures. It's a mixed bag, raising serious questions about the bank's approach. Economic development, a rising tide, or just a bigger yacht? Now let's talk about the World Bank's second big goal, economic development. The idea here is that by investing in things like infrastructure, education and healthcare, you create the conditions for sustainable economic growth. Think of it like building a house. You need a solid foundation, infrastructure, a skilled workforce, education, and a healthy population, healthcare, before you can even think about putting on the roof, economic prosperity. Sounds reasonable, right? And in theory it is. But the problem is that the World Bank's definition of economic development often prioritizes growth over everything else. It's like they're so focused on making the pie bigger that they don't seem to care who gets a slice or what happens to the environment in the process. This laser focus on GDP growth has led to some questionable decisions, like funding massive dam projects that displace indigenous communities or supporting extractive industries that pollute the environment. It's a classic case of short-term gains for the few at the expense of long-term sustainability for the many. And let's not forget about the whole conditionality thing we talked about earlier. The World Bank often uses its loans as leverage to push for economic policies that favor free markets and deregulation, even when those policies might not be in the best interests of developing countries. It's like a financial version of the parental advisory sticker. They're telling you it's for your own good, but you can't shake the feeling that someone's trying to pull a fast one. So, while the World Bank might talk a big game about economic development, it's crucial to remember that development comes in many forms, and sometimes the pursuit of economic growth at all costs can actually undermine other essential aspects of development, like social justice, environmental sustainability, and human rights. Chapter 3. Global Development Goals, a checklist for saving the world, or just a box-ticking exercise? Now, the World Bank would like you to know that they're not just some rogue institution running around the globe with a checkbook and a God complex. Oh no, they're all about promoting sustainable development aligned with those lovely global goals, you know, the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. You've seen the little icons: no poverty, zero hunger, quality education, gender equality. It's like a BuzzFeed list for saving the world. And on paper, the World Bank's commitment to these goals seems pretty darn impressive. They've got whole departments dedicated to things like climate change, gender equality and social inclusion. They even publish glossy reports with charts and graphs showing how much progress they're making. But here's the thing about goals: they're only as good as the actions taken to achieve them. And when you look at the World Bank's track record, the gap between rhetoric and reality can be pretty darn wide. For example, they talk a big game about tackling climate change, but they continue to fund fossil fuel projects. They claim to be committed to gender equality, but their lending practices often exacerbate existing inequalities. It's like they're trying to solve a Rubik's Cube by just peeling off the stickers and rearranging them. Now, to be fair, the World Bank isn't the only institution guilty of this kind of hypocrisy. But when you're dealing with an organization that wields as much power and influence as the World Bank, the stakes are incredibly high. When they fall short, the consequences can be devastating for the people and the planet. Chapter 4, Trade and Investment, a gateway to prosperity or a Trojan horse for exploitation. All right, let's talk about trade and investment, because according to the World Bank, nothing screams economic growth like tearing down those pesky trade barriers and letting the invisible hand of the market work its magic. The idea is simple. Facilitate international trade, attract foreign investment, and boom, prosperity for all. It's the neoliberal dream, wrapped up in a neat little package. But, and I'm sensing a theme here, it's not quite that simple. Because while free trade can create opportunities for some countries, it can also leave others vulnerable to exploitation by more powerful economic players. It's like entering a boxing match with a seasoned heavyweight when you're still wearing floaties and a pool noodle. And let's not forget about the whole race to the bottom phenomenon, where countries desperate for foreign investment lower their environmental and labor standards in a bid to attract multinational corporations. It's a vicious cycle that benefits the wealthy and powerful at the expense of workers and the environment. Now, the World Bank would argue that they're all about promoting fair trade and responsible investment, but critics argue that their policies often prioritize the interests of corporations over the needs of developing countries. It's like that friend who's always trying to set you up on blind dates with people they describe as having a great personality, when what they really mean is they have a pulse and a trust fund. So, while trade and investment can undoubtedly play a role in economic development, it's crucial to ensure that it's done in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few. And that, my friends, requires a level of oversight and regulation that the World Bank hasn't exactly been known for. Chapter 5. Financial Stability, Preventing Global Meltdown or Just Bailing Out the Big Banks. And finally, we arrive at the World Bank's role in maintaining global financial stability. Because when the global economy starts to go all wobbly, like a toddler learning to ride a bike, the World Bank is there to provide a steadying hand, or at least that's the idea. They provide funds to countries facing financial crises or reeling from natural disasters. And in theory, this is a good thing, because when one part of the global economy catches a cold, everyone else is at risk of getting the sniffles. But critics argue that the World Bank's interventions often come with conditions that exacerbate the very problems they're trying to solve. Think of it like giving someone a loan to pay off their credit card debt, but then jacking up the interest rates and shortening the repayment period. Sure, you've technically given them a lifeline, but you've also made it even harder for them to get back on their feet. And let's not forget about the whole moral hazard issue, where countries and financial institutions might be more likely to engage in risky behavior if they know the World Bank will be there to bail them out. It's like giving your teenager a car and a bottomless gas card, then being surprised when they end up wrapped around a lamppost. So while the World Bank's role in maintaining global financial stability is undoubtedly important, it's crucial to ensure that their interventions are actually helping, not hindering, the long-term economic prospects of developing countries. Chapter 6. The Verdict. Is the World Bank saving the world or just hedging its bets? Thank you for joining us on this journey to understand the World Bank. We've explored its goals, its features, and its often contradictory impact on the world. And if you're feeling a little confused, a little overwhelmed, and maybe even a little bit angry, well, you're not alone. The World Bank is a complex institution with a complicated history. It's capable of great good, but it's also capable of causing significant harm. And ultimately, whether you believe it's a force for positive change or just another cog in the machine of global capitalism depends on your perspective. If you have any questions or need more information, feel free to reach out. And remember, when it comes to understanding the forces shaping our world, a healthy dose of skepticism is always a good thing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.